Are you someone who tends to be deeply affected by the emotions of those around you? For instance, you might feel elated when your sister shares her good news, or you might get teary-eyed when a friend tells a sad story, or even become anxious when your co-worker is stressed about their deadlines. Sometimes we can become too swept away by the feelings and needs of others. To avoid becoming overwhelmed by the emotions and desires of those around you, it's crucial to practice setting healthy boundaries. This means developing the ability to distinguish your own emotions from those of others and taking care of yourself by setting clear limits, so you can cultivate a stronger sense of self and navigate relationships with greater ease and confidence. In psychological literature, you may come across the term emotional contagion. While almost everyone experiences it to some extent, not everyone is equally susceptible. For instance, individuals who are highly sensitive may feel the emotional effects of an encounter more intensely than those who are less sensitive. This sensitivity can be beneficial when it comes to positive emotions, as it enables you to pick up on the mood quickly and connect with others more easily. However, it can be less enjoyable when you pick up negative emotions too strongly. In such cases, empathizing with someone can begin to feel like pitying them, which can be emotionally draining. There are several signs that can indicate you are crossing your own boundaries. For instance, you may feel tense after a conversation with an overworked colleague, even though you were actually doing fine. Or you may notice that you are increasingly turning to comfort foods or drinks, like chocolate chips or alcohol, after emotional conversations. You may also experience neck and shoulder pain because you are taking on more than you can handle, almost literally carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Therefore, it's important to know where the boundary lies between your own emotions and needs and those of others, and to protect that boundary. To do this, it's crucial to understand what a healthy boundary looks like for you. What do you specifically need in order to avoid becoming exhausted by others? Once you've identified your needs, it's important to communicate them clearly so the others know what you require. Mindfulness practice can assist you in preventing getting overwhelmed by anxious or sad feelings that stem from your thoughts. This is because it helps to understand that you have thoughts, but you are not your thought. This can be applied when dealing with others. When you observe and hear that a friend is experiencing distress, you can acknowledge their pain by saying things like, "I am sorry to hear that," and empathize with them by asking, "How can I help?" However, it's important not to allow yourself to get carried away by their emotions. These are not your emotions, and you don't have to experience them to be there for the other person in a compassionate way. Sometimes it's inevitable that you find yourself in situations that emotionally exhaust you. In such cases, it's useful to prepare yourself. For example, if you want to visit a friend who is feeling down but you know that it will bring you down as well, it's respectful to be honest and friendly about it. It is much more respectful than if you were to drift away during a conversation because you are tired or irritated, or make up an excuse to get out of it. And if you are afraid that setting boundaries may come across as rude, it's important to communicate honestly and kindly about your needs. The following exercise will help you in setting boundaries. Start with small daily things that irritate you or distract you, such as a friend who constantly interrupts you when you are trying to work. Simply pointing out the behavior, like saying, "You are interrupting me a lot," or pointing out what you experience, such as, "You seem really stressed," is not setting a boundary. You need to determine for yourself whether it's important for you to be able to walk quietly in the morning without someone constantly bringing up their difficult project. Communicate your boundary kindly and from your perspective. The other person doesn't need to understand it, but they should respect it. Look for a situation that works for both of you, like agreeing to catch up after work instead of during your work hours. Avoid getting into a debate about your boundaries. If the other person responds defensively, like saying, "I am not interrupting you that much," it's not your responsibility to make them feel better. Simply say, "It's important for me to have uninterrupted work time. Would you be okay with that?" Don't downplay your needs, like saying, "I know I am being sensitive, but..." Stick to your boundary and communicate it with confidence. Check whether you made the boundary checklist when practicing. First of all, ask yourself if your boundary is concrete and clear. For example, "I want to be able to walk calmly this morning," or "I don't want to discuss my personal life with my colleagues," or "I don't want to lend money to my friends anymore." Second, do you communicate your boundary in a friendly and non-blaming way? Example, "I really appreciate how hard you are working on this project, but I need some quiet time to focus on my own work right now." Third, can the other person meet your boundary? For instance, if you request that your coworker not interrupt you during meetings, is it something they can really do? 4. It's also important to be clear about the consequences if the other person does not meet your boundary. This could involve looking for another workspace if your current one is too noisy, or if you set a boundary with your friend that you will no longer tolerate their consistently negative and toxic behavior towards you. The consequence may be that you distance yourself from that friend, or even end the friendship altogether. In most cases, the consequences will be related to yourself, but as a parent or a manager, you may also need to discuss what the consequences are for the other person. Over the next few days, write down the situations where setting boundaries was necessary. Check if the boundary you are setting is something you clearly express, and not just a general feeling of discomfort or annoyance. Saying, "I don't like it when you interrupt me while I am speaking," is not the same as setting a clear boundary by saying, "I need you to let me finish speaking before you respond." The former is just a complaint, while the latter sets a specific boundary that the other person can understand and follow. Reflect on how you managed to enforce your boundary. What did you say, ask, or do? If setting a boundary didn't work, it's important to reflect on why and consider what you can do differently next time. Like if your boundary wasn't respected, try being even more specific and concrete in your communication next time. Or if you get defensive or angry, this may cause the other person to become defensive as well. Use I statements to express yourself, like "I feel," "I need." Setting boundaries can be challenging, especially if you are dealing with someone who is resistant. Consider getting support from a trusted friend, family member, or therapist who can help you practice and provide encouragement. And finally, if setting boundaries consistently fails, it may be time to reevaluate the relationship. Ask yourself if this person is adding value to your life. or if the relationship is causing more harm than good. It's okay to let go of relationships that are no longer healthy or fulfilling. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you for your attention. See you next time.